Ladies and gentlemen, to present our first Eye on Biodiesel Award, please welcome Don Scott and Jennifer Case.
This year's Climate Leader Award recognizes 3 organizations for environmental leadership to promote all clean fuels, including biodiesel, along the West Coast. These organizations, along with other NGOs such as the Natural Resources Defense Council and the Union of Concerned Scientists, bolstered and defended low-carbon fuel policies in California and Oregon.
California readopted its low-carbon fuel standard in September. California is now on track to reduce carbon by 10% in its transportation sector. Oregon is also following this example, and together the West Coast is proving that meaningful carbon reduction can be obtained through smart policy, though it can't be done without biofuels. We're proud that biodiesel is one of the lowest carbon fuels available to meet these carbon reduction goals. We're here today to recognize the coalition that stood strong to defend advance the low carbon fuel standard as a landmark and monumental policy to address climate change. These organizations and others work tirelessly to defend legal challenges and stand up for the environmental, the economic, and the health benefits of low-carbon fuels.
Please welcome, representing environmental entrepreneurs, Mary Solecki.
And the American Lung Association's Bonnie Holmesgen, represented today by Heather Palmer.
And please join me in honoring the Environmental Defense Fund, represented by Timothy J. O'Connor.
Litigation defense, direct lobbying, economic analysis, getting shouted down in rooms of fossil fuel industry representatives. Who knew being friends with Jennifer and Don and all the members of the California Biodiesel Coalition could be so difficult? It's really been quite a ride over the last several years. Starting back when the low carbon fuel standard was first a glint in Dan Sperling's eye, to today, where we see tremendous volumes growing, where we see the embodiment of climate change policy turning into economic growth. This is just a remarkable accomplishment. The partnership that the environmental community has had with the biodiesel industry in California really is tremendously important to the movement in California and the US, and really, I think, to the world, because it shows what can happen. It shows that even though we have an industry which is entrenched like none other, providing 95% of the energy that's used to power at least the California economy several years ago, in fact, I think it was 97%, to today, where we have more fuel diversification than ever before. We have industries and businesses growing in people's backyards, in their communities, providing real jobs. This is the opportunity that exists with smart policies, and the biodiesel industry is the beaming example. Not just where we see fuel being delivered, but really throughout the economy, from the collection to the processing to the people that transport waste oil and waste grease throughout the economy, to manufacturing in our communities, to good jobs that provide living wages and real benefits and opportunities to folks really where those opportunities didn't exist previously. Working with Mary Solecki and environmental entrepreneurs and the folks from American Lung and the Natural Resources Defense Council and the Union of Concerned Scientists, we've done storytelling about the opportunities and the businesses that are in California, the costs associated with the status quo system, the impact of the fossil fuel industry on our communities, on our public health, on our economic stability, and what fuel diversification and what this industry that's represented by you in the room represents. It's not just a benefit for the climate, not just a benefit for the economy, but it's a benefit for people. And we look forward to working together, forging ahead. We certainly have a lot of room to grow and a lot of opportunities on the horizon. But I was reminded by an article I read just a little bit earlier today that today actually is the 30th anniversary of the tragedy of the Challenger space shuttle that occurred actually right up above us where we are today in Florida. And when you think about the investment that went into that space program and the setbacks that occurred over the years and the types of investment that we need to diversify our fuel mix, to protect the people of our nation, to protect the people of the world from the public health ills to the economic ills, to really the fact that we are insecure as a nation because we import and rely so much on a single fuel source, that this industry and the setbacks and the growth and the learning curves and everything that's occurred over the years, you keep marching on. And that is just so tremendously important. We continue to put people into space. We continue to make that investment because it was important. And we see this being tremendously important. No longer do I want to hear about kids that have to go to school in the Central Valley with inhalers around their neck. What I want to see is growth and opportunity that provides the benefits that this industry embodies. And just thank you for the participation in our relationship and continue to work forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you and your organizations for all of your hard work on behalf of the biodiesel industry. And now to honor an industry leader, please welcome back to the stage, Joe Job.
Good work.
Today, we honor an individual whose contributions can be seen in nearly every aspect of today's biodiesel industry. He's retiring this year after nearly 4 decades with the industry leader ADM. He was at the forefront of helping develop the commercial biodiesel industry in the U.S. His work to keep the industry unified through the National Biodiesel Board has been essential to growth and success. His thoughtful and effective leadership has helped guide the industry through every major challenge in the last 2 decades. Please recognize with the Lifetime Achievement Award, Mike Livergood.
Thank you, Joe, for those kind words. I really do appreciate it. Lifetime Achievement Award, I guess that really only dates back to 1999 for this group. Joe Job was the new CEO of the National Biodiesel Board, and he gave us a call, asked if he could stop by and give us a presentation on his organization, try to get us to buy into biodiesel, literally, to become dues-paying members of the National Biodiesel Board. His timing couldn't have been better. In 1999, we had a problem that was being caused by a couple of major mega issues in the economy. Number one was the exponential growth of palm oil. Palm oil, unlike annual crops, you plant it in 15, 20, 25 years, you produce the oil, regardless of the demand or regardless of the price. The other dynamic that was going on at the time was the Chinese diet was improving. Large increases of meat consumption, chicken and poultry, as Joe mentioned earlier, that was creating a great demand for our protein. So we saw a wonderful future for the protein of our soybean plants. As you know, most of you know, when you crush soybeans, you produce the soybean oil and you produce a meal. We had great demand for the meal, but not so much for the oil. In fact, at the time he came by, we were crushing the soybeans in our plants, selling the meal as feed, and putting the oil into our boilers to generate steam to run the plants. We had a dilemma. Joe's presentation went great. And in fact, he caught the eye of Marty Andreas, who 20 years earlier had been instrumental in developing our ethanol business for ADM. Marty pulled me aside after the meeting and said, you know, he's got a point. You're doing this thing wrong. We were trying to develop new uses for industrial oils through chemical applications. It's too small ball. We had a bigger problem than that. Big problems need big solutions. Ethanol had gasoline, you've got diesel fuel. And he was right. And we went forward from there. And 2 years later, we started our first large biodiesel plant in Hamburg, Germany. A few years after that, we started our first US-based biodiesel plant in Mexico, Missouri. And by 2011, we were running 11 biodiesel facilities on 3 continents with a total capacity of nearly 3/4 billion gallons a year. So biodiesel was truly the savior, as far as I'm concerned, for the industry, for the soybean crushing industry. And at this point in my career, I'm 2 months away from retirement. It's hard not to look back and ask, have you made an impact on the business? And when I look at the National Biodiesel Board and what it's done for our business, and in particular, I want to shout out for the farmers, the growers of this organization that from the very beginning have supported both financially and politically the biodiesel cause. I think we can say without a doubt that we have made a difference. Thank you. The way this works, I think you all know, is that we all work together. I think we saw in the ethanol industry where there was a split in the business, our opposition takes advantage of that. And I would hope that going forward, you continue working together with the National Biodiesel Board, carrying that message forward. Thank you very much.